Okay, good evening, guys. This is the first podcast. I'm not sure if I should call it that for the season. This is FPL Game On, and it's the sixth version. So we have Mike, who was the season one winner, and he's consistently, in the winning spots. I think you've missed just one of the
One.
seasons. Yeah, one
Yeah.
season. Uh, the other four, he's been in the winning spots, and he's winner of season one as well. Very good consistency. He's our first guest. The second guy is Neol Govias. So he's the defending Champions League winner. That was our first season last year, and he won it. Again, I think you've played a couple of seasons and consistent finishes in both in the top 100K. We've also been joined by Sagar Sheth, who won the last man standing last year. And people here will know it's the most difficult to win. He managed to do it, and he's beaten Mike in the finals last year. And finally, we've got Dhruv, who came in with huge pedigree. He joined the league last year with some insane ranks, and I was telling Paras, I remember, do you really want to get this guy in? But I said, yeah, it's fine. It's going to increase the competitiveness of the league. So he's joined us, very consistent ranks, and he won the league last year. So he is the defending FPL Game On champion. So welcome, guys. We're just going to quickly go through everyone's broad strategies and how you tackle the season. So we'll start with Dhruv. Dhruv, what do you think? So what are the key things you look at when you're making your game week one team, and are there some FPL rules you follow? Is there something you specifically do that differentiates you from the rest?
To start with, actually, as the game progresses and every year the competition, gets tougher. So I try to, do the thing differently later after, but not in the game week one. So I try to make it simple for the game week one, and my team structure and the positions of players, I keep it like so that I can switch it by game week 2 or game week 3 easily.
Right.
And I don't try to be fancy for game week 1. That's my starting strategy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I can I can take a punt on few differential players like later at the later stages, but not for the game week 1.
Okay.
I try to be as safe as possible for the game week 1, and other than that, I try to take a minimum hits as possible. I'm not stubborn that I will not completely I'm not as stubborn as that. If अगर कुछ मतलब मुझे लगता है कि हाँ for few game weeks I can for generally I plan for 4 or 5 game weeks, not more than that, or not for a single game week.
Right. So that's a good point, actually. So his strategy basically is going as safe as possible at the start and trying to take punts as and when possible. So Mike, do you think when you make your team, you have certain, what the FPL world calls price points? Like, do you try to be, even Dhruv was mentioning about flexibility, do you try to have different or as many price points as possible so that you can keep jumping on, say, bandwagons?
Yeah. So in terms of my strategy, always whenever I'm starting off, given that it's the first game week, there are a lot of unknown factors which you're not aware of. So I always keep the price points in such a way that if there's another player I could potentially require, he's just maximum 2 transfers away. So I'll always start with a little money in the bank. But yeah, so that's generally my strategy.
Right. So Neol, let me put this question to you. Do you think building team value is essential for the end of the season, when you have your second wild card in play or so? Do you think people give it too much importance? like say for example, you've got a player with a lot of money, locked up there, a lot of increase in value, for example. Are you worried about selling that player? Do these questions take priority when you're making a transfer decision and keeping team value in mind?
Uh, Team value generally comes in mind, but for me, like I generally tend to keep no rules when it comes to FPL because every year FPL keeps changing. So having a set amount of rules forces you to play a particular way, and then you can't bend your strategy when you need to. Uh, I generally have had higher team value in the past 2 seasons where it helps to switch to other players, but I've seen other some other players at the top as well who have had like 101 million, 102 million team value who are like high up in the ranks. So generally, I don't think team value comes into play as much as people give it importance, because people will bend transfers just to get in a particular player when the value is going to jump, rather than having a strategy in mind as to what that team value will do for you. So yeah, I think it's important, but having a strategy for that set transfer that you're doing, and not just doing it for players out, players in, is really important.
Yeah. So, Sagar, are you that kind of a manager which says, okay, fine, I'm going to have this limit of hits that I will take, or like I probably Mike is that kind of manager where he just tries to avoid taking as many hits as possible. There are some managers who I've seen even in the league last year who I think were in the top 5 at some stage, a huge amount of hits, -12, -8 very regularly. So are you that kind of a manager who worries about taking hits, or you think, okay, if this guy is going to repay it, say within 2-3 game weeks, there's no problem at all. I mean, I can go ahead and take the hits if required.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a little conservative. I don't take as many hits as probably the others do, and that probably reflects in my team value as well because I don't jump early enough into bandwagons and get on players. So I sort of show faith in my existing squad, and then only once it sort of is proven beyond a reasonable doubt that a player will perform, only then do I get him. But I think this season, I think that'll change a bit given there are a lot of teams with strong attacking strengths, and so I think uh, slightly quicker adaptation would be required. And this season, I'll probably take a few more hits compared to every season.
Yeah, yeah. So just quickly round the table up. You guys, so let's start with Dhruv. Are you more of a form over fixtures? Do you value fixtures more, or you look at the form and you're like, okay, fine. For example, Ings, he's going to score against anyone. It doesn't matter. Or do you look at fixtures even more importantly as compared to the form of the player?
I am a fixture guy,
Okay.
but when it comes to the player like Kevin De Bruyne or Salah, like talisman player or the big hitters,
Yeah.
then I completely ignore the fixtures.
Right. Right. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, so same. So up till a particular caliber of player, usually if it's below, like say Ings also, for example, like last season, even though he performed so well, I never got him in time. And even if I would have played it based on his fixture, not his form. So I usually play fixtures or form.
Okay. Neon?
Yeah, I think same. Fixtures, I look at fixtures a lot more, but over the past seasons, I've learned like there's a lot of players that just make a mockery out of the
Yeah.
fixtures. Like Aguero, I think I remember the season where I was first. I think Aguero scored back-to-back hat tricks against United and Chelsea, and then it was basically over after that.
Yeah. Yeah. What about Sagar?
Similar to most of the guys, yeah. I think
Yeah.
a little more analytical or a little more fixtures oriented. But I think it comes back to bite you at times.
True.
So I think
Yeah.
some people
So
will be taking a punt on form and sort of.
yeah. Yeah. So basically, to summarize, I have the same view. I mean, fixtures are important, but for some players, you just can't look at fixtures and probably sell them like Neil mentioned. It might come back to hurt you. Let's go to the next section. So this is on captaincy. So this is something that interests me a lot. I have struggled with captaincy, especially last year. I got it right the previous year, but last year was just horrible. I just wasn't getting it right. And I think most of the guys who are looking at this video will want to know what what is that one thing you do before making that captaincy decision? Do you throw it at luck? You just sometimes I end up asking my wife. I won't I won't deny that, because I have no idea what to do between the two players, and so that happens. But is there a very set strategy in your mind? So let me start with Mike. When you look at captaincy, what are the one or two things that you look at with the most importance, and how do you finally come at the decision?
So in terms of captaincy, so I always have a solid team. So the first few game weeks, I will play safe. I'll keep safe captains, which others also putting, so that I'm not too far off the lead. And usually towards the second half, all my points are related to captaincy. That's why I don't do that well on captaincy points, you'd see. So usually I keep a safe team, but try to, because I mean, it's fun for me, right? So the rest of the stuff is all based on analytics, but captaincy, I like to leave it to luck so that I'm more excited to watch the game as well. And if it works, it's like a lot of fun. So
yeah, for all you guys thinking Mike is that dull, he actually punts on captaincy. Okay, Sagar, what about you? How do you approach captaincy?
Captaincy, I think I usually base it on two things. I think one is it has to be a safe player, and like even if I forget last year's LMS season, which ended on a high for me, if I think about 2 seasons ago when I actually finished like 3-digit OR, I remember I'd taken very, very safe choices all through the season. And then the season after that, I took punts and played around a bit, played to my fancy, and it really sort of didn't work out well for me. So I think one is always go safe. That's worked out well for me. I've seen people, having Saint Maximin as their captains and doing well and all of those things. But I mean, it works out once and then it doesn't work out twice. And people talk about the time it works out once, but then on an average, it doesn't usually work out. So I think that's sort of number one for me. Pick a safe player. Yep. And the second one is, I think, eye test. I think like see the match the week before. I think that matters a lot, especially for these big players. If they are, in good nick, then they'll get points. So I think eye test matters.
Okay. Yeah. So Neol, do you look at captaincy? Do you try and captain players at say lower price points who have a brilliant fixture? Or like these other guys are saying, are you like more inclined to captaining people at the higher price bracket who are historically proven to kind of, at least on an average perform better than the rest? So are you that kind who can take certain punts, or relying majorly on heavy hitters?
So most weeks I think I end up with two choices either way, and it's a head and heart call for me most weeks. But like Sagar said, eye test is really important when it comes to it. Last year I was working during all the matches, so I couldn't watch any of the matches. This time I'm free, so hopefully I get to watch the games more. I did not get to watch a single Chelsea game last year, so it's really mad. But I think I target whichever player has the higher ceiling for me. If I seen the player play, or if I can think he has a higher ceiling, I'll even take a hit for it. I don't mind. Suppose I need a defender in, but a captaincy player will give me like 30 points, rather than my captain giving me like 16 points. I'll take the hit and I'll captain him.
Okay, that's a good point. So Dhruv, what is that final thing? Like Neol said, right? Generally, it comes to about two players, and that happens with a lot of us.
Yes.
What is that final push that requires you to say captain a Sterling over a Bruno, or a Sterling, or Sterling over a KDB if you have both in the team? What is that final thing that gets you to captain one of the two?
Actually, the rule is that I don't generally captain a goalkeeper or defender, right?
Right.
I always captain a midfielder or forward, and like you said, it generally comes to final two or three players, and it's basically just a luck.
Yeah.
I can totally tell you that it's a luck. Like if you remember last season, there was a double game week of Liverpool. Some of us had Salah and some of us had Mane. So that was totally random decision. I had Salah, so I triple captain Salah. Some of us had Mane. Means nobody had both, right? Either some of either कुछ लोगों के पास साला था, कुछ लोगों के पास माने था. मेरे पास साला था, मैंने ट्रिपल कैप्टन उसको बनाया.
I had made
ठीक है.
Trent, I think.
And हाँ, yes, ट्रेंट, साला, माने. So अगर जिसने माने को कैप्टन बनाया, it was not a bad decision at all, right?
Yeah.
Mane triple captain on Liverpool double game week was totally fantastic decision, but it turns out to be horrible for Mane owners.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you
did
can't
that.
do.
Yeah, I did.
Yes. So
I couldn't
that was a
watch.
fantastic decision, but turns out to be a horrible decision.
Yeah.
So you for the final 2 or 3 players, it was always a luck, nothing else.
Yeah, so it's kind of you just go with your gut, right? At the end, it's down to 2 players. Mike went probably, I don't know if he looked at it as a punt, but he probably went the safer route, is what I would say.
I usually go the less popular. So if I'm stuck between two, I'll
Yeah.
see the other one is more popular. I'll then go with the other one, so that if this guy performs, so I get a boost.
Yeah. So let's go on to this season now. Let me put the question to Neol. What do you think is different this season? Do you think strategies will have to change, not only in the background of our league, which is growing rapidly, also in general, looking at the football and the teams? You've got brilliant promoted teams like Leeds into the league as well. Do you see something specific that is different this year?
Not necessarily. I know, but this year the main thing I think is a lot of good teams are emerging now. Strong teams, even Leeds are making a lot of signings now, like you said. And their defensive record, I think, was probably the best in the championship last year.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of teams to consider, options to consider, attackers, like Chelsea, United. If they get Sancho now, suddenly are a menace to deal with. Liverpool, if they click into gear. So I think for me, it's more like I said, I like chasing higher ceilings. So this year having price points, I feel, is really important in midfield, for me at least, because I like jumping to other players a lot.
Yeah.
So if I see someone with a higher ceiling, I'm making that switch.
Okay. Yeah. So, Mike, this year, one thing that I've seen that is different, or rather, I'm not sure if it's that different, but it's pretty evident that there are lots of premium options. Aubameyang is gone to midfield at 12 million. He's gone into the price brackets of the Manes and the Salahs. You have the Werners coming in. Martial has got a price upgrade. You have Bruno at 10.5. Kane, Aguero, it's like, in the 10 plus bracket, there are so many options, but I'm not sure how many you can fit.
Yeah.
So do you think this is different, and what is your broad sort of outlook for the season in terms of these heavy hitters?
Yeah. So in terms of my strategy this season, I'll have to tweak it a bit, because earlier I used to always keep a full playing 15 in the squad, and now to do that and get those premium midfielders in doesn't seem possible. So I think first time I'm going with only one playing goalkeeper, 1 or 2 subs which will probably not score points. And I've kept some money in the bank to switch between that 9 to 11 price bracket range, or downgrade either Oba to KDB or so on. So little different this year.
Yeah. So Dhruv, another big change this year obviously is the blank in game week 1. You have 2 big teams, United and City, blanking in game week 1. We don't know when the double game week will happen, but I'm sure it's not going to happen anytime soon. So what's your strategy? I'm sure you won't want to leak out too much, but broadly, are you thinking of benching any of them in game week 1, or do you have a plan to get them in? And obviously the third option is an early wild card. So what are your thoughts on that?
No, not a wild card.
Okay.
And either if I have a Greenwood, then probably I will bench him, or I will completely ignore Manchester City and Manchester United for game week 1.
Okay.
Then gradually I will take 1 or 2 with a -4 hit, it's quite easy, and
Right.
I don't mind that.
Yep.
But benching a 10.5 player for the game week 1, it's
Difficult, yeah.
like, I don't want that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, Sagar, let me put this question to you. In terms of captaincy, so it's related to captaincy and what this season brings to us. You have these one-on-one options like Sterling versus KDB. You have Mane versus Salah. Are you that kind of a manager who will just stick one and forget? Just take a call, Salah over Mane, and hope that over the year he's going to outscore him, or are you okay to kind of jump on to one player and then look at form and then switch players? And this year, actually, it's they've priced Mane. I felt they've made the decision easy for most managers. Pricing Mane exactly the same as Salah. That's what most will say. But looking at Salah's form, I don't know. But I'm sure he's going to hit form as soon as possible. But yeah, and then you also have the Sterling versus KDB, again, same team, same price point. So some interesting calls. So what is your plan around that? Are you looking at even doubling up? I'm not sure how possible that is, but when certain fixtures hit for any of the teams, even doubling up an attack is not a bad call. So what are your thoughts on this?
You're on mute.
Yeah, it's a tough one, I think. Mane is in obviously better form compared to Salah. Salah's in terrible form, and I've had Salah since my first draft, and now I'm sort of rethinking it. But I think I'll stick with him because ownership also matters, right? I mean, Mane outscoring Salah might not affect you as much as Salah outscoring Mane might if everyone else has Salah. So I think for I think these sort of high priced bets, I think I'll stick with the safer one at the beginning. But then gradually sort of pick up the form based on both actual points scored as well as eye test, and then sort of start tinkering. And then at that stage, I think I'll be okay, picking Mane over Salah if at all I think that Mane has the potential to outscore. But I think when you're not sure, just stick to the safer one.
Yeah.
I think I think Sterling KDB one is even more difficult. Who do you get in? Who do you captain? Because KDB is obviously slightly more defensive in terms of the city.
Yeah, I think that's the tougher decision there. Sterling versus KDB.
Yeah, it's a really tough one, which is why I think I won't immediately get a City player in second or third. I'll probably push it off by a week or two just to see how the City team sort of starts playing. I'll probably get a United asset early on, but City I'll probably delay by a week or two. I mean, that can obviously prove costly given how prolific City are in terms of attack, but I think I'm okay.
Yeah, I think even the fixtures kind of suggest that you could push it for a little later. They've got Wolves away in game week 2. So yeah, it's possibly, but you never know. I mean, a player like KDB, those are the games where he kind of thrives on, those difficult fixtures, right? Anyways, so moving on, again, keeping the topic on this year and what's different. What do you guys think about the player pricing? So I'll just quickly probably put a question to two of you guys and then the opposite question to the other two. So maybe Dhruv, do you think there are any underpriced players this year?
Probably Greenwood if Sancho doesn't sign.
Yeah, we are quite positive Sancho will sign. But that's how we are. But Greenwood is.
And Kane and Aguero.
Yeah, I agree. Kane and Aguero for me look quite underpriced. Yeah, what about Sagar?
I think Warner's underpriced at 9.5. Given the price that Kane, Aguero are still priced much higher than him, and then we obviously have all the premium midfield assets from Arsenal, Liverpool, City. And Chelsea's sort of highest price player at 9.5 sort of seems like a great bet. Obviously, because it's his first season, I think that's the case. Next season, we'll see him increase to 10.5, 11. I'm pretty confident. So I think he's pretty underpriced.
Yeah. Neol, what about the Chelsea assets? Since you're a Chelsea fan, let me put this question to you. Havertz is priced at 8.5. Pulisic is at what, 8.5?
8.5.
He's also at 8.5. Then you got Werner at 9.5.
Ziyech is at 8.
Sorry?
Ziyech is at 8.
Ziyech is at 8.
Yeah.
So these, I mean, I'm sure all of them will take time to settle, gel in with, the entire team. But the Chelsea assets look really tempting if, they hit the ground running. So what do you think about the pricing of these assets?
I think so. It'll take a season to realize, but I think most of them are underpriced. And it'll be, like I said, targeting. So I'm looking at price points for that reason, especially. I currently have a Dele Alli in my draft, which is at 8. But I'm looking at getting. So I'll have to, because I think Kovacic has a yellow card, so he's not going to play the first game. There are a lot of ways I think Havertz could start. So, and jumping from Havertz to Pulisic is what I'm looking at as soon as Pulisic gets fit.
Yeah.
So, and Timo Werner, I think it's a given. He's been in all my drafts since the first draft.
Yes.
Havertz, I think, could be really good because if he plays the 10, because I saw the first game I watched against Brighton this season. Werner likes to drop deep a lot, go to the left. That leaves a hole open, and Havertz likes to attack spaces and play as a forward. So if he can do that, I think for 8.5, he could be really tempting.
Yeah, that's a good point because a lot of Chelsea fans, even on Twitter and stuff, the one thing I hear a lot is the way Werner drifts. I mean, whoever plays behind Werner in the 10 is really a good bet. And then you also have the likes of Pulisic to still come up. Let me put another question to Mike. The Man United assets are also priced in an interesting. So you've got the likes of Greenwood at 7.5. We don't know if he's going to start every game if Sancho comes in. You have a new player, Donny van der Beek, and he's actually priced at 7, right? That's quite. But obviously that's factoring in. He's not going to start every game. Then you have Bruno at 10.5. Now, I'm not seeing Bruno in a lot of plans. I'm not sure what you guys think, but you have these 3 top players: Bruno at 10.5, Rashford at 9.5, and Martial at 9. So, what do you think about the United assets being priced?
So I think in terms of Bruno, I think it's slightly overpriced. I feel 10.5. And although I feel it's overpriced, but I know his potential is there given that he's on penalties most probably again. So I've still kept enough money in the bank to make a direct switch, but I will monitor United for 2-3 game weeks and choose either Rashford or Martial or Greenwood if he starts. So that is how I'm going with for now. But yeah, I think the pricing is interesting for United.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the next section. It's more related to FPL Game On the league. So a lot of guys have, I don't know if you guys will call it helped, but the league has now ramped up from 75 players to 132. That's a huge increase in 1 year itself. So let me start with Sagar. What do you think is? Do you think the 132 is on your mind? There are lots of players with good ranks, good history coming in, or do you just back yourself and play your game and it doesn't matter? I mean, yeah, that would be the easy answer, but what actually are you feeling would be interesting to know.
It's obviously, I mean, it's going to become much, much more competitive. And especially so in the sort of knockout tournaments, I think, Champions League, LMS, that's where it gets really, really difficult with so many players. And but I think if you sort of play consistently throughout the season, I think in terms of the classic league, you will still, and the phases, you can still end up making winnings. So I think strategy is to not get perturbed by all of these crazy high ranking new people as well as existing guys. Just try to stay consistent and you'll end up in winnings, I think.
Yeah. So Mike, how are you looking at it? Are you seeing the opportunity? You have a good season and you're going to get winnings that you would have never got in the last 3-4 seasons. And at the same time, the winnings that you've got in the last few seasons probably is under threat. So how are you looking at the new additions?
So I actually never bother about the players in the league. I always play based on the overall rank because you tend to make, I would say, maybe not the best potential decision based on comparing yourself to other teams. So I leave that towards the last 2-3 game weeks when I know that Dhruv is number one and maybe I'm like 20-30 points behind, and I'll make those captaincy punts. But till I think game week 30, I don't even look at the table. And I mean, it has bit me back. So like in terms of knockout tournaments and all, I usually, even though I performed so well, I didn't even qualify for UCL. So all those things happen. But I think over the long run, you just should stick to your own strategy.
Yeah. So the only thing Mike does is whenever there's a new addition, he'll just put something on the group saying, "Acha nikal do." But in reality, he doesn't care. Okay. Neol, you're the defending UCL champion. Now, I am kind of finding it difficult to understand what exactly makes a Champions League winner in this format, because LMS, yes, it's pretty clear. You need to consistently just ensure that you don't have a very bad week, because it's like hardly 2-3 eliminations, say last year. This year, of course, the group size is big. So even 4 out of 132 is not that difficult in the initial weeks. Classic League obviously is what it is. I mean, you just have to ensure you end up with a good overall rank. And but yeah, UCL is difficult. So these new additions, are they making it difficult? Because you have groups of 11 and only 2 qualifying short for the Champions League round of 32, and then you have a long way to go. So last year, did you feel like, okay, I might just win it? That's the first part of the question. How did you tackle it last year? And then have things changed this year?
Last year, I think, like Mike does, I generally don't tend to look at classic leagues and this as much. I just tend to look at overall ranks, because I feel if you have a good team set in place, then, and for like head-to-head formats and stuff, it kicks in. People look at other teams, they take rash decisions, they take -8s, they take -12s, and then suddenly, like last year, I think I was pretty close to losing it. I think in was it the quarterfinals?
Yeah.
Where I had Aurier, and then he ended up saving me.
That was close.
So yeah,
that was on bonus points, right? If I
yeah.
So I'd pretty much, I thought I'd lost there. So I only, I think, looked at the team in the semi and probably the final of the opponent, and I think I had already most of the players. So for me, it's just having a good team in place where you can target overall ranks. The other things, like, it'll just follow.
Yeah, take care of itself. So Dhruv, you were in a very good position this year, somewhere after December or Jan, if I'm not mistaken, and you won those consecutive phases, and that really helped you ramp up the rankings. And you were leading for a decent amount of the second half, and you just stayed there. This year, do you think that's going to be difficult to do? I mean, you have almost double the number of players. There's going to be someone who's going to have or replicate something that you did this year and probably put you under pressure more than ever. I was just talking to these guys before you joined in. There's one guy who's joined the league. He's actually in pot D. His name is Ismail. He ended with a rank of 1900. So that would have, put a lot of pressure on you. So these kind of managers that have come in, are you going to take some aggressive calls towards the end if you are in such a situation, if you're leading again, that is? So what kind of pressure are these guys going to bring to you?
So why is on in the group D, pot D? First of all, tell me that.
That's because he had 3 seasons of over 5 lakh or 10 lakh ranks, and probably that was... So his standard deviation from my model was quite high.
Okay. No, actually this time 132 participants, right? So I'm looking forward to get my entry fees back.
You're looking sorry.
No, मतलब 9th 10th आ जाए, मतलब entry fees जितना recover हो जाए बस.
Oh, wow, that's being modest, right, guys?
But the amount of effort you take to recover that money, do you think it is worth the investment? Time investment.
And it's not actually about money, right?
Yeah.
It's about fun.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Money is just the outcome. Yeah. That's what everyone's saying. Yeah. That's true. So let me put a quick question to you guys. How many of you guys have Excel models in place and uh, somewhere, going through those Excel sheets, all the fixtures, trying to project points and so on? Do any of you guys follow that kind of a model, or you just everything's in the mind?
So I used to have a model, like I think 4 seasons ago before my MBA, and after that I just don't have the time, man. So I just go by the eye test. Mostly I go by the eye test
Yeah.
and just going through some websites and what people are saying. But
Yeah.
earlier I used to have, especially for the defense, to figure out if the rotation is good. So yeah.
Yeah. What about Sagar? Do you invest a lot of time in FPL by way of these Excel models? Do you just look at a lot of games? What is your key ingredient?
No, I look at a lot of games. Anyway, love watching football, so look at most of the shitty games also. But I don't think I've created any Excel models or anything as such. But I do look at models created by others, right? If you follow a few handles on Twitter, you come across that. You have a few WhatsApp groups where people would be sharing stuff. So I do look at a lot of stuff shared by others, and that sort of does take up some time, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. What about Neol? So is stats something that you look for on a lot of these websites today? I mean, the FPL content that's there are so many FPL content creators, lots of stats all over on the internet. Do you look at stats a lot? Do you rely on eye test? Do you have models in place? How does it work for you?
I think I do a bit of both. I like stats a lot, so I do tend to see all the stats like goals conceded, everything, fixture rotations, but also like Sagar, I like watching football a lot, so I'll watch every single game out there in the Premier League at least. So whatever I can, and then judge based on that. But yeah, I think for the past few seasons I didn't have the time. This year I'm a bit more free, so I think I like to load up on information mainly. So any articles, anything I can read. I love reading football in general, so not just Premier League, other leagues as well. But then yeah, stats regarding that, and I think it does help to a certain extent to make certain decisions. But if you sit there with all your Excel sheets out, and then if you go to do and predict like who's the perfect player, I think you're just going to be in a web that you're never coming out of.
Yeah. What about Dhruv? What is your key ingredient to success?
I try to watch games, and if I can't, then I will surely watch highlights. And then as what Neil said, I like to read about some articles or hear some podcasts.
Yeah.
And watch fixtures like in some clusters, like next 4 or 5 fixtures or next 3 or 4 fixtures, like that's it.
Yeah. So guys, you need to invest time. These guys have not been winning just by looking at a few games or say the teams you support on a Saturday or a Sunday. Uh, Clearly, by what I hear, everyone's investing a lot of time. Mike used to invest way more time before when he won the season as well. But yeah, so yeah, investing time is critical in whatever way or form that you feel, right? Let's go to the last section, guys. I think we are doing well on time. So let's talk about some predictions for the season. Let me get the first question to each of you guys, and let's start with Dhruv. Dhruv, which player do you think is going to score the highest points in FPL this season?
Messi.
Let's assume Messi is not coming because I'm pretty confident he's not coming.
Okay, then Aubameyang.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Or some city guy.
Okay. What about Mike?
I think KDB or Oba could be a wild card. So that could happen.
Yeah. Everyone's talking about switching Oba to KDB in game 3. But yeah, this is interesting. What about Neol?
I think for me, it's between four players. Salah could make it in, but I'm going Oba. So I looked at the numbers as well for that. Oba, I think even if he was a midfielder, he would have
Yeah.
finished behind De Bruyne. And I'm pretty certain this year De Bruyne might be on penalties. So if he is on penalties, I think he could end up with the crazy score 270, 280. I might even give Werner an outside shot if he is on penalties. Because I think we were second in the amount of XG last year behind Man City.
Right.
So if that stands true this year as well, I can see Warner scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah, that's actually a good point because XG wise, yes, Chelsea actually did pretty well, and given that they've strengthened in that number 9 spot, if Werner is as clinical as he has been, you never know. Sagar, what about you?
Every spot, man.
Sorry?
They're strengthened in every spot except
Every, yeah, that's true.
No, similar bets for me. I think likely one of KDB or Werner. I think Werner. I mean, although everyone's put him in their squads, everyone's not sure if they'll sort of retain him for the entire season. But I think he'll. Although it's his first season, we've seen players outshine in their first season, right? We saw Bruno sort of come up, and everyone's squad had him. So I think Werner would surprise, and KDB is obviously gonna do well.
Yeah. One thing we kind of missed discussing, maybe I'll just put it to one of you guys. Mike, what do you think about the Pep roulette? Is it on your mind? Are you always scared? Okay, I'm not going to pick a guy like Sterling, because the reason why I'm asking you this question right now, because in my head, I'm just thinking if Sterling gets more regular minutes, I mean, he's going to surely contest for that top FPL scorer. But the problem is Pep rotation, right?
Yeah. So between Sterling and KDB, it's always like ceiling versus consistency for me. And I usually go for consistency. So I've never been the Sterling, except the last game week of last season where KDB then screwed me over and Sagar won the LMS. So that was the only time I think I picked Sterling over KDB. And well, we know what happened. So usually I go for consistent players. And in terms of Roulette, I think KDB is the sure shot again, right? So he's always there. So earlier Aguero used to be the first guy on my team. I even as an FPL asset and like as a player, I'm a big fan. But now, again, even there's a little bit of confusion. How many games he'll play, how many minutes he gets. So I think usually KDB, and otherwise, if I have money to invest in defense, I go with Laporte for City assets.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the next question in terms of predictions. Dhruv, which FPL player is right now under the radar and you think is going to like outshine just out of the blue, is going to come up with I won't say a highest FPL score, but really turn out to be good value for money? We saw last year players like Lord Lundstrom. You always have these, not necessarily 4.5 players, but even in the higher price brackets, they really outperform their price and turn out to be real value picks. So if I were to ask you any differential pick, someone that's right now under the radar and you think will be good value at the end of the season?
Che Adams.
Yeah, that's a good.
Or Soshek or what?
Yeah,
Sushek.
Yeah.
Yes, Che Adams. I think Southampton will be very attacking team this year.
Yeah.
And Che Adams, if he starts regularly, then he can match Ink's potential or Ink's points.
Yeah. Actually, Southampton, that's a good point, because Southampton were really attacking, and post restart, they were actually just below City and United, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of attacking stats. So Shea Adams is a good shout. Neol, what about you?
So I looked at a couple of players who I think could do exceptionally well. I think especially now, I think Southampton for sure, because I think they're like probably the best team outside the top 5, top 6. For me, I think Calvert-Lewin again. I think right now, especially with Everton's signings, I think their main problem was the midfield for me. And now I think they've signed Alan. They are signing James and Ducore. So I think with that three, Richarlison and both Calvert-Lewin, if they play up top, I think Calvert-Lewin could especially shine. Deli Ali right now is exceptionally low owned. everyone's going for either Son or Kane, but I think Ali. I think when all three played, Ali was
Ali had,
probably, yeah, he was the highest. So even someone like a Pulisic or Ziyech, for their price, I think could exceptionally shine and get high amounts of points. Greenwood again, Podence. I've looked at a lot of players, Podence, but I think now with Wolves signing the new player, I don't think he'll get, because when they play three at
right.
the back, I was seeing him play
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
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 So I think, yeah, those are a few picks.
Okay, Sagar, any pick that you think people are not looking at much right now?
I think these guys spoke of the more obvious ones in my mind. I think a few sort of players who've gone under the radar and who could sort of emerge this season. One could be Reece James for Chelsea. If he sort of holds down a starting berth, he's a very attacking player.
Yeah.
So I think could be an interesting one. Um, I think some of the Southampton mids can also get into the game. I think a lot's been said about Ings and Adams and everyone, but I think some of the mids could,
Yeah.
Armstrong,
Ward-Prowse is on penalties as well. So
what Prowse is on penalties. He's also, sort of participating in actual gameplay, not just penalties. He's like sort of contributing. Armstrong's doing well. He had, I think, one of the highest number of shots for, players priced under that 8-9 range. So I think those guys could also sort of surprise. Yeah.
yeah. Mike, any other addition, or do you have someone in mind from the promoted teams?
Yeah, so I'm actually looking at Mitrovic. So he
Yeah.
usually somehow manages to score even though he doesn't have a great team behind him, but this time he actually does. So, and at his price point, I think he could be a good, first of all, enabler in terms of freeing up funds in the front, and he could chip in with a few goals here and there.
Yeah, good stuff. Final predictions. This is more from the Premier League perspective. I know it might sound a stupid question, but Dhruv, who do you think is going to win the league? Don't say Arsenal, please.
No, Arsenal won't win it. Arsenal top 4 आ जाए बस वही है मतलब.
So who do you think is going to win the league? City?
City, yes.
Mike?
City.
Neol?
If City sign Koulibaly, yes.
Okay. Otherwise?
Liverpool.
Oh, okay. And the Liverpool fan in the house.
Liverpool, yeah, I think consistently good performance. The others have a lot of new faces in, and
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I think Liverpool could struggle a bit
Yeah.
unless Thiago comes in. Everyone's strengthening. I'm not sure. I feel like once you win the league, generally you need to strengthen your team, and I think Liverpool might need some additions. You saw without Tar, they are really struggling. So yeah, it'll be interesting. My bet's on City, extremely strong. And last question for the day. Dhruv, who do you think is going to be the absolute, the team you're looking at and saying, okay, fine, any attacker against this team, I'm captaining this guy. I mean, who is going to be that absolute team that's rock bottom, or say the highest goals conceded, and really licking your lips in terms of FPL attacking options?
Like whipping boys, right?
Yes, whipping boys.
Actually, I can't say that before start of the season, but yes, I heard that Fulham is very bad last season.
Okay.
So maybe Fulham.
Yeah. Sagar?
I think Aston Villa and Fulham. Aston Villa, I don't know how they managed to stay up. I felt bad that Bournemouth had to sort of give. I think Aston Villa and Fulham,
Yeah. Interesting thing about Aston Villa is that after the restart, they actually performed pretty well, right, defensively. But yeah, let's see. I think they have a lot to sort out, especially in the goalkeeping department. And if I'm not mistaken, they'll have Mr. Sergio Romero, is it?
Yeah.
He could go to Aston Villa, and that will really strengthen their team. Neol, whipping boys for you?
There are a lot of good teams this year. It's hard. I feel like either West Ham or Crystal Palace. West Ham, I think, are terrible defensively. I don't like. I think they lost yesterday 5-2 to Bournemouth as well. So, which is exceptional. I think I'll be targeting them.
Okay. And Mike?
So I think Fulham and Leicester, unless they sort out their backline in terms of injuries and transfers and
Yeah,
suspension.
they're missing both the wing backs right now, right?
Yeah,
Chilwell
and Evans is suspended.
yeah.
So Wes Morgan is super slow, so it's quite annoying.
Crystal Palace defenders are also injured, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are talking about 4 million defenders, and Mitchell was an option, but I think
That
PV is
Ferguson guy
back
also
and
got
training.
injured.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Crystal
good
Palace
guys.
also looking good. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I said Crystal Palace. Yeah, same.
Yeah. Okay, that was good, guys. Good first podcast. Really enjoyed it. Some insightful knowledge from the champions. Hope you guys loved it. And we'll be back with more. Just shuffle it around with the guests. But yeah, watch out for these four. And if possible, me. But yeah, I'm sure these four are the veterans who are doing really well. So yeah, thanks, guys, for joining me. And goodbye for me.
Yeah, that was good to be
Thank
here.
you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye.